Good Erev Shabbos, everyone, as I welcome you to this segment which we call For the Shabbos Table. This is for Parshas Vaeschanan, Shabbos Nachamu. You know, we thank the Rubin family for making this segment possible. Really, it's amazing. I had COVID last week, so I didn't do it for the Shabbos table for Parshas Devarim, but I did one for Tisha B'Av, and I saw that there were almost 600 people that watched it on TorahAnytime.com. So the schus that they get for sponsoring this share is really enormous. It's an extra share that I give. I give a regular Chumash share, which is aired at 9 o'clock live on Torah Anytime Thursday night. But this is a special share, and the Rubin family asks everybody to have in mind they should be zeicher to a healthy ben zacher, and of course hatzlach and ruchnius and gashmius. I also want to learn. My mother has COVID, so I want to learn for her a quick refuah shalema from Hashem. Esther Fadel Vaeschanan, she should have a refuah shalema. Speaking about my mother, I want to start today's shir in a little bit of a unconventional way. Today is my birthday. This Friday, Erev Shabbos, is Yud Beis Av, and I was born on Yud Beis Av. So first of all, I give Hodah to Hashem for bringing me into the world and giving me the ability to do so many wonderful things and to be Marbitz Torah. And I ask Hashem that He should continue. I should be Zeicha together with my Rebbetzin to greet the Mashiach. Ramosha, Zech Tzav Kosh Brachas Chusi Yagim Aleinu, was always very freilich on his bar mitzvah. And there's a famous Ben Ish Chai that the mazel of a person is strong, and it's brought down that the person has the ability to give people brachas. So I want to give to all my listeners and viewers a bracha that Hashem should bless you all with in ruchnius and in gashmius. And as I reflect, Shabbos Nachamu is my bar mitzvah, so it's a very interesting thing. In my day, you're talking about now over a half a century ago, my bar mitzvah, the custom was to make a weekend bar mitzvah. That was the custom in those days. The people rented a hotel and invited their family and some close friends and the bar mitzvah boys' friends, and they made a weekend bar mitzvah. So my father, Olav Shalom, who was a Holocaust survivor, and as such, when he was an adolescent and going through Auschwitz and the death march, he never thought he would have a family. He never thought he would survive. And I'm the oldest, so his first son's bar mitzvah was a very big thing. And he wanted to make a weekend bar mitzvah, but a weekend bar mitzvah on Shabbos Nachamu was not possible because the hotels were packed. They're not willing to, book a bar mitzvah. So my bar mitzvah was a nidche. And we celebrated a weekend bar mitzvah 2 weeks later, Parshas Shoftim. I remember that at the bar mitzvah, which was really grand, my father told me that he wants me to remember this all my life, which I do, even though it's 53 years ago. And he really was paving the way for me, teaching that a parent should want to make memories for their children, make good memories for their children. And that's such a healthy thing for a child to get, a legacy to get from parents. And I remember I was reflecting with my mother just this week that even though I had a bar mitzvah and shoftim, still Shabbos Nachma was my real, bar mitzvah. So my parents, we were at that time in a bungalow colony called Saltzman's Bungalow Colony in Swan Lake, and my parents made a magnificent kiddush for the whole colony. And I remember that my mother made a huge salad, and she's a Hungarian. Hungarians take special pride in their preparation of food, and she prepared a salad with all kinds of colorful vegetables and cut them up very small, and it was like a magnificent salad. It just looked so magnificent, and I reminded her about it. I said, "Mommy, do you remember?" She says, "Of course I remember. I even remember the magnificent bowl I put it in, a huge salad for the..." And again, that's an idea of parents making memories that last a lifetime. And the younger people that are listening to this share, you should know that this is a beautiful part of parenting. I vividly remember, my father worked very hard. He actually, after the war, he was a double orphan. The Nazis gassed my grandparents, my father's father and mother, in the second Salish transport. On the first day of Shavuos, he gassed. The Nazis, Mengele sent to death my grandfather, my grandmother, my father, 4 brothers and 1 sister of my father all died on that day. And after the war, as a double orphan, the Germans offered to train the orphans. So my father actually went to Berlin and learned the leather trade. And he worked very hard in the leather trade. And he came home. He worked in Manhattan by Carter's Leather Goods. He worked in a factory at dark. I remember I was there once, a dark black factory with 80 people that he was a foreman over. And he went there by train, came home by train, and he was wiped out. But I remember he went special every Erev Shabbos to a bakery on Fort Hamilton Parkway, which was far from where we lived. There were many bakeries closer, but we loved the cinnamon buns from that bakery, big, fat, juicy cinnamon buns, and he would go special. He would make for us memories. In Linux bookstore, in Linux toy store, famous Linux toy store on 13th Avenue, he would always wait till the next Hardy Boy book came out. And he would always buy us a new Hardy Boy book. We would get very excited for the newest Hardy Boy. This is stuff of making memories. Now, I want to reflect upon this and something else, which carries a very, very important lesson for this particular time. As I told you, my weekend bar mitzvah was shoftim. So my father hired a Rebbe to teach me the laning and the haftarah. And I learned the laning. I learned Pasha Shoftim well, and I learned the haftarah. And then a few weeks before Shabbos Nachamu, my father, Vaeschanan, comes and says, we're making a big kiddush in the bungalow colony. It would be nice for you to lane Vaeschanan also. Here I am, I'm 12 and a half years old, 12 and 3/4. I said, yeah, but Daddy, I didn't learn Vaeschanan, I learned Shoftim. So he said, well, it's the same trup, right? So I said, yes, but, there's no Nakudas in trup in the Sefer Torah, and I didn't learn it. I don't know it at all. He said, well, you're a smart boy. It's, work on it. So in about 2.5 weeks, I studied Vaeschanan, and you can understand that I'm a kid, and this would be even before I laned my regular bar mitzvah pasha. So I laned, but I made mistakes. And an older teenager came over to me after I laned and said to me, not bad, only 19 mistakes. I have to tell you that I still feel the pain of that comment now, 53 years later. Of course, I was Michael him decades ago. He's now very, very fine, choshev man. But we have to understand that comments that are made can't be withdrawn. And they really hurt. That's Einas Devarim. And if we're not careful, remember, Hamalbim Pnei Chaver B'Rabim Ein Lo Chelek L'Olam Haba. The pain caused, the Gemara tells us in Masechtas Bava Metzia that it's worse to say not nice words than it is to steal a person's wallet. Because Zeh B'Gufay v'Zeh B'Mamonai. One is against a person's body. It's like an arrow in the body. The other is money. And then the Gemara says something else. Shezeh nitein liyishavan v'zeh einay nitein liyishavan. You could return the money. You could never take back what you said. The pain, we really have to be careful what we say. We know about interpersonal relationships. That's what brought sinas chinam, brought the baseless hatred, brought the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. I saw that Rav Ephraim Goldberg, the prestigious Rav of BRS in Boca Raton, Florida, wonderful man. I saw him write recently, using fictitious names, about a single girl by the name of Elisheva who was living in the Upper West Side. And she was already getting on in years, and she had her eyes out for a good young man. And there was a good-looking young man, seemed to be fine, in her apartment building. She asked somebody about him, and he said, he's kind of weird. And just that one word, he's kind of weird. Well, she certainly didn't want weird. And she never picked up a conversation with him or looked at him because he got the brand. Somebody called him weird. One word. And she lived in an apartment together with him about 2 years. And then he was leaving. Like on the last day or the last week, he said to her, he spoke to her, he said, I'm moving out. I've never really gotten a chance to talk to you, so I want to wish you well. And, she thought that was very nice. And, they ended up having a cup of coffee together. And she saw, the person that called him weird said, yeah, he's always talking to the elevator guy. And she mentioned to him while they were talking, I hear you talk to the elevator man. He says, yeah, I noticed he's very lonely. And not many people speak to him, so I made it my business to speak to him. And, she said, that's not weird. Maybe the other person thought that's very nice. Anyway, he took her out to eat. And one thing led to another, and they became a chassan and kala. And she reflected upon it, that it probably would have happened 2 years earlier, if not that someone said one word about it. One word. Called him weird. That's the power of just one word. That's how careful we have to be with Einas Devarim. One word. We know, Hamalbim Pnei Chaver B'Rabim Ein Lo Chelek L'Olam Haba. Miri says habitually, but if somebody habitually embarrasses a person in public, they lose their afterlife. This Monday, today is Yud Beis, so this Monday is Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av is a day which is a happy day. And there are many reasons why it's happy. One of the reasons is an interesting reason. In the generation of the desert, there was a one-time negative prohibition, lav, of loy sasav, that you weren't allowed to marry somebody out of your shevet, out of your tribe. And this was in order that the Yerusha of Eretz Yisrael should not pass outside of the tribe. And this was a hardship, that you couldn't do a shidduch outside of your tribe, even if you like somebody outside of your tribe. On Tu B'Av, they stopped that lav. It was only for one generation, and we once again allowed to marry people from another shevet. So Tu B'Av is also the time. There was a time that there was a civil war in Klal Yisrael, and there was a decree that we couldn't marry into Binyamin. And on Tu B'Av, they readmitted Binyamin into Klal Yisrael. So you notice how we move from Tisha B'Av, a time of hatred, a time of people not getting along, to the time of happiness of Tu B'Av, where again all of Klal Yisrael could marry into one another, and all of Binyamin could marry into all of the rest of Klal Yisrael, and that brings happiness when there is that actus. Now you know that Tu B'Av is also what's called Price Elul. Tu B'Av this Monday is 15 days before Elul. And Elul, of course, is the last month of the year, where we try to put our best foot forward, because we know that the year is judged after its finale. Hakol Hailech Achrach Soim. Everything goes according to the finale. And we know that Elul stands for Anila Dodi V'Dodi Li, but Elul stands also for Ish L'Re'eyu U'Matanas L'Avyanim. And it's really important, our relationship, Ish L'Re'eyu, our relationship one with another. And the determining factor of relationships in a very big way is how we talk to one another. We spoke about this extensively on Tisha B'Av, that the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us, Adam l'Amal Panivra, a person was created primarily for the toil of the mouth. Like Shlomo Melech said, Ki ukef olav piyu, you should have a saddle on your mouth. The greatest arena for achievement in life is the way we talk. Our marriages are determined mostly by how we talk to each other. Is it tenderly? Is it kindly? Is it softly? Is it respectfully? This is the stuff that I always think about that Rav Segel, the Manchester Rosh Yeshiva, says that when we say before Baruch Shema, Hareini Mizaman Espi, Lahodosu Lahalelu L'Shabeach Esbayri, I'm preparing my mouth to praise Hashem. And he asks, how do you prepare your mouth? Now, of course, we prepare our mouth with gargling. Right? It says that in the morning, you should get rid of the ririn shebepeh, the saliva in the mouth, prepare your mouth. Hikon likras elikecha Yisrael. That's, of course, true. But he says something else. He says, you want to prepare your mouth? Make sure it's a mouth that doesn't say not nice things to people. Make sure that it's a mouth that doesn't lie. Make sure that it's a mouth that doesn't scream. Because ein katega nasa sanega. The prosecutor can never become the defender. If our mouth is not good, it's not going to accomplish big things in our davening. And I just give you an example from my bar mitzvah 53 years ago. It's 53 years ago from this Shabbos. And I still remember the pain. Vaeschanan el Hashem ba'esahi lema. So we all know that Vaeschanan is the gematria 515. It actually is the same gematria as Shira song, which is 515. And it's because Moshe Rabbeinu prayed 515 prayers to enter into Eretz Yisrael. And if Hashem wouldn't have said, Ravlach, Al Tosef Daber Elai Oid Badavar Hazeh, if Hashem wouldn't have said that, Moshe Rabbeinu would have prayed more. This is a great lesson. The Gemara asks, Ma Yasa Adam, what should a person do who davened V'loi nena, and he's not answered? What should he do? Now, it's an interesting question. One might think, look, I already asked Hashem. Why should I ask again? There's no forgetfulness before Hashem. Obviously, if I didn't get it, that means Hashem doesn't think I deserve it. Why should I ask again? That's being a nudge. Think about yourselves. Somebody asks you for something. You say no. They ask you again. Maybe they think you forgot. They ask you a third time, they're being a pest. A fourth time, they're being a nag. A fifth time, you delete them from your contacts. But the Gemara says not that way. The Gemara says if you're not answered, Yalzer v'yispal. Daven again. Shenema kaveil Hashem, hope to Hashem. If you're not answered, chazak, be strong. V'yameid slibecha, be courageous of heart, v'kaveil Hashem. Hashem wants us to daven more and more. You see Moshe Rabbeinu daven 515 times. We see Einei Leah Rakas, that Leah died until her eyelashes, Leah davened until her eyelashes came out. Why are our matriarchs akaras? Rachel was an akar, Rivka was an akar, Sarah was an akar. Why? And Hashem wants us to ask. You see, when we ask, we get closer to Hashem. Right? Our tefillah is instead of karbanis. Tefillah b'makom karbanis tikna. And the more we ask, the more closer we get to Hashem. Hashem wants that closeness. It makes us also realize more and more that einoid milvadai, that it depends on the Rebbeinu Shalom. If not for the fact that the Rebbeinu Shalom said B'Ravla, Moshe Rabbeinu would have kept on going. We don't know what the quota is. Have a child that doesn't have their shidduch yet? Got to keep on davening. Don't say, I davened already. I davened already. I went to the kaisel. I did. Keep on davening. You never know when we're going to hit the quota. The parnasa is not going so good. Keep on davening. Baruch Aleinu, another Baruch Aleinu, another Shema Aleinu. It's one of the great lessons of Shabbos Nachamu. You know, there's so much to talk about in this week's parasha. The Ten Commandments, wow. Ten Commandments are full of lessons. You know, there's a whole gamut of midos, of character traits. There's anger, there's generosity, greed, stinginess, there's tolerance. There's so many traits. There's laziness, so many traits. The only trait chosen to be spoken about in the Ten Commandments is Oisachmoid, not to be jealous. That really, really should make a mark upon us how important it is to steer away from jealousy. It's the very rat of the bones. That's why we find jealousy. Cain was jealous of Hevel. It led to murder. Yosef was jealous. The brothers were jealous of Yosef. Look what it led to. It led to going down to Mitzrayim. It led to Yosef being away from his brothers 22 years. Jealousy is the root of much evil. The fact that the Ten Commandments zoom in on it really teaches us this lesson. The fact that there's two luchos. The first luchos is our relationship between Hashem, us and Hashem. The second luchos is the relationship between us and our fellow man. Yet the fifth commandment is on the first luchos, is honoring our parents. Shouldn't it be on the second luchos? But it's because Hashem says there's three partners in man: father, mother, and I. I'm the silent partner. But I want to tell you something. The way you honor the other two partners, your father and mother, that's the way I know you would treat me. So our honoring our parents reveal our feelings for Hashem, the silent partner. That's why it's in the first luchos. There's so much more to talk about, but at this point, again, I want to thank the Rubin family. I want to again remind everybody to please learn from my mother, Esther Fadel Vaeschanan. She should have a refuah shalema from her COVID, from Hashem. I want to thank you for joining us. If you would like to sponsor this coming week's Chumash year, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful Shabbos.